I'm not the kind of person who believes in ghost stories. 32 years working subsea, 20 of those in saturation diving. You learn real quick that the ocean doesn't need supernatural bullshit to kill you. Physics will do that job just fine. A failed O-ring, a miscalculated decompression schedule, a single moment of panic at depth. That's what should keep you awake at night. Not monsters, not ghosts, but I'm recording this anyway. Maybe it's insurance, maybe it's evidence, or maybe I just need to hear my own voice say it out loud so I can convince myself it actually happened. My name is Marcus Webb, 54 years old, Chief Systems Engineer for Benthic Solutions Limited. I've worked on rigs in the North Sea, pipeline installations off the Gulf Coast, habitat modules in the Mediterranean. I've been deeper than most people will ever go, and I've seen what pressure does to metal, to equipment, to human tissue when things go wrong. I've pulled bodies out of diving bells. I've watched grown men weep inside decompression chambers. I thought I'd seen everything the deep could throw at me. I was wrong. It started 6 days ago, February 1st. I was wrapping up a consultation job in Singapore when I got the call from operations, emergency deployment. The Nereus station needed immediate support. Communications array was down, environmental systems showing intermittent faults, and the station complement was 3 days past their scheduled rotation window. Corporate wanted someone down there within 48 hours. Someone experienced. Someone who wouldn't freak out. The Nereus station. Christ. Of course it was Nereus. For those who don't know, Nereus is, or was, the deepest permanently inhabited structure on Earth. 36,000 feet down, bolted into the southern slope of the Mariana Trench. It's not a research station, not officially. Benthic Solutions built it on a DoD contract, all very hush-hush, all very expensive. The official line is deep ocean mineral surveying and extremophile research. The unofficial line is that the Navy wanted a listening post down there. Something to monitor seismic activity and submarine traffic in a part of the ocean that's basically inaccessible to everyone else. I'd helped install some of the tertiary systems during the construction phase back in 2019. Spent 3 weeks in saturation while we pressure tested the habitat modules. Even then, the place felt wrong. Too quiet. Too isolated. The kind of place where the walls seem to lean in on you when you're not looking. But the money was exceptional. Hazard pay, depth bonuses, emergency deployment rates. We're talking 6 figures for what should have been a week's work. And honestly, I needed the distraction. My wife had filed the final divorce papers in December. The house was in escrow. I didn't have anywhere I particularly wanted to be. So I said yes. The descent took 11 hours. They dropped me in a modified bathyscaphe, basically a titanium sphere with life support and a single viewport the size of a dinner plate. No room to stand. No room to do much of anything except sit in the jump seat and watch the water turn from blue to gray to absolute crushing black. You descend through layers. Everyone talks about the ocean like it's one thing, but it's not. There are kingdoms down there, discrete zones with their own rules and physics. First, you pass through the sunlight zone, where the water still remembers what warmth feels like. Then the twilight zone, where the blue fades and the temperature drops, and you start seeing bioluminescence, little sparks of life in the growing dark. Then the midnight zone, where the pressure starts getting serious and the hull creaks with every meter you drop. And then you go deeper. Past the midnight zone, you enter a place that doesn't have a friendly name. The Hadal Zone, the underworld. 6 miles of water above you, pressing down with a force that would compress a human body into something the size of a basketball. The viewport was 3-inch thick acrylic, rated for 40,000 feet, and I still caught myself holding my breath every time the hull groaned. The pilot, young guy named Chen, couldn't have been more than 28, tried to make small talk for the first hour. Asked about my background, whether I'd been to Nereus before, what I thought of the Singaporean food. I gave him short answers. Eventually, he got the hint and shut up. Around hour 6, we passed through a thermocline that made the whole sphere shudder. Chen checked his instruments twice, muttered something in Mandarin, and adjusted our descent rate. I asked if there was a problem. He said no, just some unexpected current shear. Nothing to worry about. But his hands were tight on the controls for the next 20 minutes. At hour 9, we entered total darkness. Chen killed the exterior floods to save battery, and the only light came from the instrument panel, a soft red glow that made everything look like the inside of a womb. I could hear the life support system cycling, the CO2 scrubbers humming, my own breathing, too loud in the confined space, and something else. It was faint. So faint, I thought I was imagining it. A low-frequency vibration, right at the edge of hearing, like a distant engine, or a bass note held for too long. I asked Chen if he heard it. He cocked his head, listening, then shook his head. "Just the hull settling," he said. "Thermal contraction. You hear it all the time at depth." Maybe. But I'd been at depth plenty of times, and I'd never heard anything quite like that. At hour 10, Chen turned the exterior floods back on. Not because we needed them. The navigation was all sonar and inertial guidance, but because, as he put it, he liked to see where he was going for the final approach. I wished he hadn't. The lights cut through the water maybe 15, 20 feet. Beyond that, nothing. Just black. But in that narrow cone of visibility, I could see particles drifting past. Marine snow, they call it. Dead plankton and fecal matter, and disintegrated organic matter, falling in an endless, silent blizzard toward the bottom. It was hypnotic. Peaceful, almost. And then I saw the station. It appeared below us like a cathedral made of rust and rivets. 5 interconnected modules, each the size of a school bus, arranged in a rough pentagonal shape around a central hub. Ballast tanks and thruster assemblies jutting out like tumors. Sensor arrays and communication masts bristling from every surface. The whole thing anchored to the trench floor with 20-foot pylons drilled into the basalt. It looked exactly like I remembered it. Industrial, brutal, practical to the point of ugliness. Except for one thing. All the exterior lights were off. Chen noticed it too. "That's odd," he said. He tapped his comms panel. "Nereus Station. This is Bathyscaphe Delta 7 on final approach. We're at 50 meters and closing. Please confirm docking clearance." Static. He tried again. "Nereus Station, do you copy? We have your systems engineer aboard, requesting docking confirmation." More static. Then, just as Chen reached for the radio gain, a voice crackled through. "Delta 7, Nereus Station. Copy your approach." The voice was male, flat, exhausted. "Proceed to docking collar Charlie. Automated systems are offline. Manual lock only." Chen frowned. "Nereus, confirm status of station personnel. Are you?" "Just dock the damn ship." The line went dead. Chen and I looked at each other. He opened his mouth to say something, then thought better of it. Instead, he guided us down toward the docking collar, using thrusters to make minute adjustments. I watched through the viewport as we descended past the dark windows of the habitat modules. No movement inside. No lights except for the dim red glow of emergency lighting. The docking collar was on the underside of the central hub, a circular hatch, maybe 6 feet across. Chen maneuvered us into position with the kind of precision that comes from too many hours in a simulator. I felt the clamps engage with a series of metallic thuds that vibrated through the hull. "Locked," Chen said. He started his post-docking checklist, fingers moving across the panel. "Pressurization in progress. Should be equalized in about 3 minutes." I nodded, unstrapped myself from the jump seat, and stretched as much as the cramped space would allow. My knees popped. My back ached. 11 hours in a titanium ball will do that to you. Chen glanced at me. "You sure you want to do this? Something feels off." "Yeah," I said. "It does." But I was already reaching for my toolkit, already running through the mental checklist of diagnostic procedures I'd need to run once I got inside. The pay was too good. The work was too important. And besides, I'm not the kind of person who believes in ghost stories. The airlock finished cycling. A green light appeared above the hatch. Chen gave me a nod, and I spun the wheel, breaking the seal. The smell hit me first. Stale air, recycled too many times, sweat and machine oil, and something else underneath it all. Something organic and faintly sweet, like meat left too long in a warm room. I pulled myself through the hatch and into the station, and that's when I heard it. Not through the hull this time, not a distant vibration. This was coming from inside the station, from somewhere deep in the modules ahead of me. A sound like breathing, slow, wet, enormous. The breathing stopped the moment I fully entered the station. Just stopped, like whatever was making it knew I'd heard. I stood there in the access corridor, one hand still on the hatch wheel, listening to the silence. The emergency lighting cast everything in that deep red color that makes shadows look like wounds. Water was dripping somewhere, a rhythmic plink, plink, plink that echoed off the metal walls. "Hello?" My voice sounded too loud, too thin. "This is Marcus Webb, systems engineer. Someone want to tell me what the hell is going on?" Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, coming from the central hub. A figure emerged from the shadows, male, late 30s, wearing a stained benthic solutions jumpsuit. His face was gaunt, dark circles under his eyes like bruises. He hadn't shaved in days. When he looked at me, it took him a moment to focus, like he was seeing me from a great distance. "Webb." His voice was the same one from the radio. "You actually came." "Dr. Amherst?" I recognized him from the personnel files. Station commander, marine biologist, published about 36 papers on extremophile ecosystems. "What's your status here?" He laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Status, right. Status is we're fucked, Webb. Completely and thoroughly fucked. The communications array isn't broken." He moved closer. I could smell him now. Unwashed skin, coffee breath, fear sweat. We shut it down. Had to. It was listening. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. What was listening? But Amherst just shook his head and turned away. "Come on. I'll show you to your bunk. Get yourself settled. We'll brief you in an hour." "I'd rather see the communications bay first. Start running diagnostics." "In an hour, Webb." He stopped, looked back at me. His eyes were bloodshot. "Trust me. You're going to want to rest first. while you still can. The crew quarters were in Module B. 4 bunks, 1 occupied. Amherst pointed me to an empty rack and left without another word. I stood there for a moment, listening to the station settle around me. More dripping, the hum of life support, and underneath it all, almost subliminal, that same low-frequency vibration I'd heard during the descent. I checked my watch. 0340 hours. I'd been awake for 19 hours straight, but sleep felt impossible. Instead, I opened my toolkit and pulled out a handheld diagnostic scanner. If Amherst wasn't going to give me straight answers, I'd find them myself. The other 2 bunks held crew members. One was empty, sheets pulled back, pillow on the floor, like someone had gotten up in a hurry and never come back. The other held a woman, curled in the fetal position, facing the wall. She was breathing. I could see her shoulders moving, but she didn't acknowledge my presence at all. "Hey," I said softly. "You okay?" No response, not even a twitch. I left her alone. The central hub was a circular room maybe 20 feet across, with pressure doors leading to each of the 5 modules, command and control, life support monitoring, a small galley with a microwave and a water dispenser. Everything looked functional. No obvious damage, but someone had taped black plastic over all the viewports. The thick, reinforced portholes that normally looked out into the trench. I walked up to the nearest one, reached for the tape. I wouldn't do that. I spun around. Another crew member stood in the doorway to Module C. Female, mid-20s, with short dark hair and the kind of athletic build that came from military service. Her jumpsuit had a name tag. Reeves. "Why not?" I asked. "Because you'll want to look, and once you look, you can't stop looking." She moved to the galley, poured herself a cup of something that smelled like burnt coffee. Her hands were shaking. "Been down here 4 months. First 3 months, everything was fine. Normal. Boring even. Then about 6 weeks ago, the sounds started." "What sounds?" She took a long drink. "Impacts against the hull, like something bumping into us. Amherst said it was probably seismic activity. Pieces of the trench wall breaking loose and drifting into the structure. Made sense, but then we started hearing them on the sonar." "Hearing what?" "Patterns." She set the cup down. "The impacts weren't random. They were rhythmic, sequential. Like something was testing us. Tapping. Learning the shape of us." I thought about the breathing sound. "Where's the rest of the crew?" Personnel manifest said 6 people. Reeves's face went tight. "Kowalski tried to escape yesterday in one of the emergency pods. Never made it. Dr. Chen, not your pilot, different Chen. He's in medical. Sedated. Started screaming about eyes in the water and wouldn't stop. And Morrison..." She trailed off. "Morrison?" "Module E flooded yesterday. He was inside." Jesus Christ. "And you didn't evacuate? Didn't call for emergency extraction?" "With what?" She gestured at the dark equipment panels. "Communications are down. We shut them down ourselves after we realized what was happening." Amherst said something was listening. What did he mean? Reeves looked at me for a long moment. "You need to hear the sonar recordings. But first, Amherst wants you to fix the ballast pumps in Module E. Get the water out. Recover Morrison's body." "The module flooded and you want me to go diving? In the Mariana fucking Trench?" "We need those pumps operational. And we need to know. She swallowed. We need to know what happened to Morrison. The dive prep took an hour. I suited up in one of the station's hard suits, an articulated atmospheric diving suit that maintained surface pressure even at depth. A wearable submarine, basically. 1,200 pounds of aluminum and steel and acrylic viewports. Reeves helped me with the connections, checking seals and power cells. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, but I could see the tremor in her fingers. The airlock to Module E is still functional, she said. You'll flood the chamber, equalize pressure, then proceed through. The pumps are in the aft section. Standard diagnostic procedures apply. Should be straightforward. And Morrison? Just document what you find. They locked me into the suit. I heard the seals engage, felt the slight pressure increase as the internal atmosphere stabilized. The heads-up display flickered to life. Depth gauge, power levels, oxygen mix, external temperature. Everything nominal. Reeves's voice came through the comms. You're green across the board, Webb. Airlock is ready when you are. I stepped into the chamber. The door sealed behind me with a hiss that sounded far too final. Flooding began. I watched through the viewport as water rose from the floor vents, dark, cold, filled with particulate matter. It climbed up the suit's legs, past the waist, up to the chest. The pressure differential made my ears pop even inside the suit. When the chamber was fully flooded, the exterior hatch unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped out into Module E. The interior was a nightmare. Emergency lighting still functioned, casting that red glow through the murky water. Equipment floated everywhere. Tablets, tools, clothing, all drifting in the current like debris from a shipwreck. I could see the damage now. A massive rupture in the far wall, maybe 3 feet across. The metal peeled inward like something had punched through from outside. But that was impossible. The pressure at this depth should have made any breach catastrophic. The entire module should have imploded, unless whatever made the hole had equalized the pressure first. Reeves, I'm inside, I said. I'm seeing major structural damage, hull breach on the western wall. This wasn't a failure. Something broke in. Static crackled in my ear. Then her voice, distant and distorted. Copy that. Do you see Morrison? I swept my spotlight through the flooded chamber. Saw the workstation where he must have been sitting when it happened. Saw his coffee cup, still strapped to the desk. Saw his tablet, screen dark, floating past my faceplate. And then I saw his suit. It was pinned against the ceiling by something. At first, I thought it was debris. But as I got closer, I realized it was organic. Pale, membranous tissue, translucent like jellyfish flesh, wrapped around the hard suit in thick tendrils. They pulsed. Actually pulsed, with a rhythm that matched the breathing sound I'd heard earlier. The suit's faceplate was shattered. Morrison's face was visible inside, or what was left of it. His eyes were gone. His mouth was open in a frozen scream. And growing from his eye sockets, his mouth, his nose, were thin white filaments, like the roots of some deep-sea fungus. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Christ. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Webb, what do you see? The tendrils moved, shifted, like they'd noticed my light. And then, from somewhere outside the module, from somewhere deep in the trench, came a sound that made my blood freeze. It was my voice, my exact voice, calling my own name. Marcus Webb, it said. The words distorted by water and distance, and something fundamentally wrong with the way they were being formed. Marcus Webb. Come outside, Marcus Webb. The tendrils released Morrison's body. It drifted slowly toward me, those white filaments waving like anemone tentacles, and I swear to God, his ruined mouth moved. Come outside, Morrison's corpse whispered in my voice. It wants to meet you. I don't remember backing out of Module E. Don't remember cycling through the airlock, or Reeves helping me out of the hard suit. The first thing I clearly recall is sitting in the galley, shaking so hard my teeth were chattering, while Amherst stood over me with that dead look in his eyes. Now you understand, he said. What the fuck is that thing? My voice was raw. What the fuck is out there? Amherst pulled up a chair, sat down heavily. We don't know, not really, but we have theories. He gestured to Reeves, who pulled up a tablet, started scrolling through files. 3 months ago, we picked up anomalous readings on the deep field sonar. Biological signatures at depths where nothing should be able to survive. We thought it was a malfunction at first, equipment error. But the readings persisted, and they were moving. The tablet screen showed a sonar image. I have seen thousands of them over the years, usually just noise, occasional fish, geological features. This was different. The shape on the screen was massive, impossibly massive, and it wasn't shaped like anything that should exist. How big is that? I asked. Conservative estimate. 800 meters across, maybe more. Amherst's voice was flat, academic, like he was describing a particularly boring rock formation. It's been circling the station for 6 weeks, getting closer each day, learning us. Learning us, I repeated. What does that even mean? Reeves spoke up. We think it's intelligent, or maybe intelligence isn't the right word. Aware. It responds to our patterns, our schedules. When we run equipment diagnostics, it mimics the sounds. When we use the sonar, it sends back echoes that form patterns, mathematical sequences, and then it started talking. Amherst finished, using our voices, words it's heard through the hull, through the water. It's been listening to us for weeks, learning how we communicate. I thought about my name being called in my own voice. But I just got here. How did it know my voice? They looked at each other. Neither answered. That's when I understood. The descent. The bathyscaphe. It was following us down. Probably, Amherst said. We think it's been here for a very long time. Maybe since before humans existed. Maybe longer. There are geological formations down here that don't match anything we've seen before. Structures that might not be natural. We think the trench isn't just its home. We think it might be the trench. Or at least part of it. My mind was reeling. Then why now? Why start interacting with the station after all this time? Because we're here. Reeves pulled up another file. We've been pumping waste into the water, running active sonar 24/7, drilling into the rock for core samples. We've been screaming our presence for 4 years, and something finally noticed. The woman in the bunk. I suddenly remembered her, curled up and facing the wall. What about the other crew member? The one in the quarters? Amherst's face went even more pale. That's Dr. Vasquez. She's been like that for 3 days. Won't eat, won't speak. Just lies there and... He paused, and hums. Hums. The same frequency we've been picking up on sonar. The same frequency that thing out there produces. She's tuned to it somehow. Connected. I stood up, too fast. The room tilted. We need to leave, now. Emergency ascent. Fuck the decompression schedule. Fuck the equipment. We get in that bathyscaphe, and we go. It won't let us! The voice came from behind me. I spun around. Dr. Vasquez stood in the doorway, still in her sleeping clothes, hair matted to her skull. But she was standing, and her eyes were open. Except they were wrong. The pupils were too large, nearly swallowing the iris, and they weren't quite focused on me. They were focused on something behind me, through me. It won't let us leave, she repeated. Her voice had a strange resonance to it, like multiple people speaking in near-perfect unison. It wants to understand. It wants to merge. It wants to become. Vasquez, Reeves started forward. I can hear it, Vasquez said. She smiled. It was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. It's singing. It's always been singing. For millions of years, alone in the dark, singing to itself. And now, it's found us. Found others who make sound, who create patterns. It's so happy. The lights flickered. Every viewport in the central hub, all 5 of them, all covered with black plastic, suddenly blazed with light from outside. Not the white light of our floods. Something else. Something organic. Bioluminescence in shades of blue and green, and colors I don't have names for. The plastic began to peel away on its own, slowly, like invisible hands were pulling it down. Don't look, Amherst said. Whatever you do, don't. But I was already looking. We all were. You can't help it. Through the viewport, I saw it. I can't describe it properly. Language doesn't have the architecture for what I saw. It was biological and geological at the same time. Tissue that looked like rock. Stone that pulsed like flesh. Structures that might have been eyes, or might have been caves, or might have been something that served both purposes simultaneously. And everywhere, those white filaments, kilometers of them, stretching out into the dark like neurons, like roots, like the mycelium of some enormous fungal network that had been growing in the trench since before the continents took their current shape. It was beautiful. That's what made it so horrible. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I felt something shift in my mind, like a door opening, like suddenly remembering a language you'd forgotten you spoke. I could hear it now, really hear it, not through my ears, but through something deeper. The song Vasquez had mentioned, mathematics and music and meaning all woven together in patterns that made my brain ache, trying to process them. It was showing me things, offering things. If I just went outside, if I just let the water in, if I just opened myself up, I could be part of something vast and ancient and eternal. I'd never be alone again, never be afraid, never die. Not really, because death was just another form of transformation and... Reeves hit me, an open palm slap across the face that snapped my head sideways and broke whatever trance I'd fallen into. Seal the viewports, Amherst was screaming. Seal them now. But it was too late. The pressure doors to Module C groaned, then buckled. Water began spraying through the seals in high-pressure jets that could cut through flesh like lasers. Emergency ascent, I grabbed Reeves. The bathyscaphe. "Already tried," she said. Her face was bleeding, where the light had done something to her skin. Raised welts and patterns that looked almost like writing. Kowalski tried to launch one of the emergency escape pods yesterday. Got about 200 meters up before something grabbed it, pulled it back down. We heard him screaming on the radio for 20 minutes before it stopped.
Module C's door exploded inward. Water flooded the central hub with the force of a tidal wave. I grabbed onto a support strut as the current tried to rip me away. Saw Amherst go under. Saw Vasquez standing in the flood, arms raised like she was welcoming it, laughing as the water filled her lungs.
Reeves pulled me toward Module A. "The emergency beacon," she shouted over the roar. "We can activate it manually." The water hit the electrical systems. Everything went dark, except for that bioluminescent glow coming through the viewports, pulsing in rhythm with that awful song. We made it to Module A, sealed the door behind us. It wouldn't hold long, but it might hold long enough. The emergency beacon was in a reinforced case on the wall. Reeves smashed it open, started yanking on the activation lever. "This will send a distress signal on all military frequencies. Someone will have to respond. And bring more people down here," I said. "More food, more minds for it to absorb." She looked at me. "What choice do we have?" I didn't have an answer. The beacon activated, a high-pitched tone that would carry through the water for hundreds of miles. Reeves slumped against the wall, exhausted. "Now we wait. The Navy will send a rescue submersible. 6 hours, maybe 8. But I was looking at the beacon's readout, at the signal strength meter. It was dropping. Not because of equipment failure, but because something was absorbing it, eating the radio waves before they could propagate, keeping us quiet, keeping us trapped. The door to Module A began to groan. "Reeves," I said quietly, "I need you to do something for me." She looked up, saw my face, understood. "The hard suits," I said. "They have emergency CO2 cartridges. You just go to sleep, no pain." "No. It's better than what happened to Morrison." I said no. She stood up. "If I'm dying down here, I'm dying fighting. There's a demolition charge in the storage locker, originally meant for emergency geological sampling. But if we set it off in the right place, we could rupture the entire station. We could kill it." Her eyes were wild, desperate, or at least hurt it. "Make it think twice before it tries this again when the next crew comes down." The door buckled. Water began to seep through. We had maybe 2 minutes. I've thought about that moment a lot over the past 6 days. Thought about what the right choice was, whether there even was a right choice. In the end, I don't remember making a decision. I just remember Reeves showing me how to arm the charge. Remember her setting the timer for 5 minutes. Remember both of us getting into hard suits one more time, even though we both knew they wouldn't save us. Remember that song getting louder. Remember understanding, finally, what it wanted. Not to kill us. Not to eat us. To merge with us. To add our patterns to its patterns. Our songs to its song. To make us part of something that had been alone for so long it had forgotten there was any other way to exist. And the worst part, the part that still wakes me up screaming, is that part of me wanted to let it. The charge detonated. I felt the shockwave through the suit, through the water, through my bones. Felt the station begin to tear itself apart. Felt the pressure wave of something enormous moving away, retreating into the deeper parts of the trench.
Hurt, but not dead. Never dead. I don't know how I got to the surface. Don't know if I made it to the bathyscaphe or if some rescue team found me drifting. The doctors say I was in a hyperbaric chamber for 3 days, drifting in and out of consciousness, talking in languages they couldn't identify. They found me alone. No one else. No wreckage from Neria Station. The Navy went down with ROVs, found nothing but empty trench. Like the whole structure had been swallowed.
Or absorbed.
I'm in a hospital in Guam now. They say I can go home in a week. Back to California. Back to my empty house and my empty life. But I still hear it sometimes, late at night. That song. Those patterns.
And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can see that beautiful, terrible light.
The doctors think it's PTSD, trauma-induced hallucinations. But this morning, I noticed something.
The woman in the bed next to mine, car accident victim, been in a coma for 2 weeks, started humming. Same frequency, same patterns. And when I walked past the window, I could have sworn I saw something in the ocean, far out past the reef. Something vast, moving just below the surface, coming closer to shore, learning the shape of us. I tried to tell the doctors. They increased my sedatives, said I needed rest. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm losing my mind. Or maybe it followed me up. Maybe it's done with the deep places. Maybe it's ready to see what else is up here. How many more patterns it can learn. How many more songs it can add to its own. I'm recording this because someone needs to know. Someone needs to understand what's down there, what we woke up. And because I think I'm starting to hear it in other sounds too. In the rhythm of the ventilation system. In the cadence of people's speech. In the patterns of waves against the shore. It's learning so fast now.
Last night, my ex-wife called. We haven't spoken in 4 months. She said she'd been thinking about me. Said she'd been having dreams about the ocean. About something in the deep that was singing my name.
She lives in Colorado.
2,000 miles from any coast.
I asked her to hum what she heard in the dream. She did.
And I recognized it. The phone's on the table now. Still connected. I can hear her breathing on the other end. Waiting. And underneath her breathing, very faintly, I can hear that song getting louder.